What's up?
Hey, we're back finally.
Oh yeah, let's
After a
go.
week.
How's everybody
I
doing?
think this open mic should be Good Friday related only.
Well,
This really isn't Good Friday.
Well, I don't have. I don't talk about anything related to. I only need things that work for my a low IQ brain that only thinks about philosophy.
Talk about the theology.
It doesn't necessarily always have to be related.
Yeah, well, how are we gonna who's gonna how's this gonna work? Is someone just gonna get on the mic and say something?
Well, we
How
can.
do they get on the mic?
What?
You know what? We should do a review of Apologia on the resurrection.
We should debunk him.
Yeah, but Chris doesn't know what he's talking.
Let's just do it because he's really stupid.
No.
Yeah, but we do.
Why would you do this to me? Fuck you guys. Oh. That's where I'm. Dang it! I'm sorry.
Chris. Alrighty.
2 minutes in. I'm used to us talking in private and being
just
able to
pretend. Just pretend like Graham Moppy's in here with us.
I really think naturalism is stupid, and if you believe it, then you're an incompetent idiot. If you're a naturalist, then you are just the scum of the earth.
Wow. Until real atheology, you said that.
No. I love naturalism. Naturalism is cool and gay. And if you're not a naturalist, then you're an idiot. All theists are stupid. Alright, moment.
That's it. I'm emailing David Bentley hard on you.
Oh no. Naturalism is stupid. If you're not a theist, theism is the only true philosophy.
Oh yeah, well guess what? I'm emailing Richard Dawkins. Get out.
Okay, good.
They only go to philosophy.
Wait, so JD,
yeah, let's
JC.
just do Apologia on the resurrection.
JC, wait. So you said people can get on the mic. How does that work?
Hey, yeah, Chris. This is meant to be a Christian Minecraft channel.
Now I see. I'm sorry. I forget that
To be fair, okay, we did tell him before this started that he wasn't the cuss. Okay, so
yeah,
fair, don't get mad at us.
Yeah, do get mad at them. It's their fault.
You would. Oh
my gosh, I'm JC and I'm so angry.
Stop cussing, Chris.
I don't give a darn.
Well, it would say
naturalism was not a cuss word.
Naturalism is a slur.
Just replace any word that you're. Just replace any slur that you're going to say with naturalism.
Shut naturalism up.
Oh my God.
Shut up, you naturalist.
Can we move on? I will kick Chris.
You son of a naturalist.
Wait, what just happened?
You little naturalist. Why did you kick me?
Stop.
You naturalist. I'm sorry, Real, if you're watching this, but you naturalist.
No, if Real is watching
this, would be an accurate description.
Yeah, you naturalist.
He is a naturalist.
They actually go by they them.
Yeah, get your
most
pronouns right.
Channel on YouTube.
The best channel on YouTube is ours, obviously. It should be philosophical violence. Why is our name? Why is the name?
Let's not have this discussion right now.
Why? Every time
someone come up to the mic.
How do they even get on the mic?
I posted the link in the.
Dude, you posted it on StreamYard.
What? No, Oh my gosh, Gabe, that transfers over into the.
Oh no, you didn't. Never mind. Okay.
Wait, hold on. I don't.
Man, I want to be an IT specialist, maybe, and I don't even know how StreamYard works.
Yeah, Gabe's like, yeah, I'm gonna go get a degree in IT. Just has no idea.
Wait. So how are we gonna get people to come on? I'm still confused.
Hold on.
Make a Twitter post. You have like 500 followers on Twitter.
Yeah.
They're
Well,
all really smart.
yeah, Chris.
You even got that weird Mormon dude.
Yeah.
What?
That weird Mormon dude who like thinks that God is material.
Imagine he hears this and he's like, man, these kids are really smart. Then he hears the weird Mormon guy.
Just like, yep.
What's his name though?
Tariq. No, it's Tariq.
Tariq.
Tariq. I can't pronounce people's names. Don't get mad at me.
I applaud him for his philosophy.
I applaud him for his philosophy. That's such a. Oh my gosh, man. You're so dumb. No, you're not
Yep.
dumb. You're very high IQ. You know, it's
I'm
a
just
very high.
stupid.
What?
I'm high IQ, but
You're
I'm
not-
also
you're very
stupid.
high IQ. Wait, hold on. On the YouTube link, there is no way to get in the stream.
I know.
What?
He deleted it for some reason.
Wait, put it back up.
I
Bro.
can't. Every time I do, it deletes it.
You little naturalist. You.
What does that even mean?
It
What?
means you're a naturalist.
I don't even know what that means.
Wait, you don't know what a naturalist is in philosophy?
No, I know what a naturalist is, but like,
He doesn't know what a naturalist is.
Which is worse, a naturalist or materialist?
materialist.
Whichever one JC is.
I am neither.
This is a very wholesome stream.
Yes, always.
Yes,
You know?
it is.
Yeah, one.
Let's just get
Why
something.
can't-
Let's just
guys,
do the
serious
resurrection
question.
thing. Since no
Why
one's
can we
jumping on
never
it.
have a wholesome stream? Every stream is just like us arguing randomly.
Yeah. Because we got the naturalist, and the historian.
Yeah, there are two genders, naturalist and
I'm just
historian.
joking.
What? I don't think that's how it works.
Yes, it is how it
Yes,
works.
it is.
There are
Premise
only
1: if naturalists exist, then historians exist. Premise 2: naturalists exist. Premise 3: therefore historians exist.
I
Bam.
don't think it's how syllogisms work.
Yep, that's how they work. No questions asked. They work that way because I like it.
Oh my gosh.
According to Chris, that's how philosophy works now. It doesn't matter
Wait,
if
say
you
that again?
refuted it or not. It only matters if you like it.
Sorry. Wait, say that again. I'm bullying people on Twitter. I didn't hear you.
Oh my god. Chris, seriously.
I'm JC. Everything. Oh man, people are having fun.
Because I'm trying not to like lose subscribers, you know?
I have all the subscribers.
No, really you don't.
Yeah,
This
I
is
do.
why Real hasn't subscribed to our channel.
Well, keep in mind that I have more Twitter followers
Or
than you,
has
and
he?
more people read my blog. So,
I have more Instagram followers than you.
Well, Instagram isn't exactly the place for good philosophical discussion.
Sure it is.
Yeah, it's not. It's really just the place where people yell at each other in comment sections, and they're like, "You're stupid." No, you're stupid.
Heretical theology.
Yeah.
Hey,
Okay, I'm gonna leave now. Bye, guys.
What?
I'm kidding.
what?
It's just like I'm just gonna leave.
Anyways, let's just do that resurrection thing. Chris, you gotta learn.
No, this is
Let's just
this
do
is
that
gaslighting.
Apologia thing.
You guys are gaslighting me.
This is
That's how-
dishonest.
You guys are dishonest gaslighters.
This is dishonest.
Oh, hey.
Thank
I'll share
you,
your channel
Caruso.
when I hit a big 1K.
Yeah, maybe then these people will stop gaslighting me.
I'm not
Like,
What is
gaslighting.
Yeah, you are.
Oh yeah,
You're
genetic fallacy.
Yeah, you are committing fallacy.
What?
You're committing the reverse gambler's fallacy.
The reverse Texas sharpshooter fallacy. Some of these fallacies have the weirdest names.
The Texas sharpshooter fallacy.
You sniped
like-
him so far away that was a fallacy.
The Matt Slick
Why is
fallacy.
it called the? Oh wait, black and white fallacy. No true Scotsman fallacy.
Yeah, some of these just have the weirdest names. I've never got why. Just like who's like,
Black and
all
white
right, we're gonna
fallacy.
name
What about
this
red?
fallacy No True Scotsman because that makes sense.
Oh yeah, well, the fallacy of composition is really stupid to me.
I'm like the fallacy of stupid.
What?
I'm sorry, I'm
Right.
like thinking right now. I'm just scrolling through Twitter. Anyway, I'm heading out now. Bye,
Go
guys.
debate RN.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, okay. I guess
we
we
can do the resurrection vid.
hold on. We're gonna do it. We're gonna do a godless engineer video.
No.
He's funny. I like him.
Which video are we doing?
Your
Do something
your
Easter
choice.
Center.
What?
Do something on his video on the resurrection, I guess.
I don't think he does. He has like 15 videos on the resurrection.
Let's just do that apologia one that's like this. You know what? Let's just pick one of his.
Pick one of whose.
Godless Engineers. Just do one of his resurrection videos.
Actually, I want to do one of his God's existence videos.
Yeah, but it's Easter, dude.
It matters that God exists, you know. On
Yeah,
Easter.
but it's Easter. Let's just do the resurrection one because that's the only one I'm good at. Without Chris, we're not good on God. We would actually get a point across.
Oh, hold on. He has one replying to Aquinas' 5 ways.
No.
right.
No.
Hold on, I'm doing this one. Honestly.
No, let's save this one for Chris.
No,
That should
Chris
be a
Webb.
video titled Chris's Rage. I can only defend the first way, and the fourth way is kind of stupid. I'll give him that. But
4th way.
no, I wanted something Easter centered. The one where it's like, the argument from degrees. I think.
Okay, I got it.
Anyways, let's just go.
Video.
What's up, heathens?
Okay, to be warned, there
Oh, no.
will be cussing because that's just how.
It's Godless Engineer.
Yeah, but I like him, man.
All right, let's go. Let's prepare for this masterpiece. Undeniable reasons, the historicity. What does it say?
5 undeniable reasons that historically prove Jesus resurrected. What the?
One was.
All right.
How long is this? Oh, it's only 17 minutes.
Yeah.
So I know exactly what he's going to start going to
Godless
first.
engineer, and I critically analyze apologist claims to give you the best arguments and information so that you can stand up and use your voice. Today, we are going to be looking at 5 shocking proofs of Jesus' resurrection. Shocking proofs like this.
And reason number 5 was that the missing body of Jesus Christ was never found. If Jesus never rose from the dead, then that means that his body
All right.
would have still...
So I really get his point here because it's a 2,000-year-old body. It's decayed and gone away. Just like
Yeah.
it's no.
This is why our channel exists as well, to make sure people don't we're kind of like the Tim O'Neill for Christians. We don't want you making stupid claims either.
still been in the grave, which means that all the Romans needed to do was simply reproduce the body of Jesus Christ.
So the made-up stories, commonly called the gospel.
Hey, pause the video. Pause it. Try to let the video catch up because like the audio and like the video are like.
Yeah, I'm not sure how.
On my screen, the audio and the video are like
yeah.
Pause it for a minute and I'll play it.
Jesus was entombed.
Never mind. All right, restart it.
Okay.
What's up, heathens? How ya doing? I'm the Godless Engineer, and I critically analyze apologist claims to give you the best arguments and information so that you can stand up.
What?
Yeah, okay, go.
And use your voice. Today, we are going to be looking at 5 shocking proofs of Jesus' resurrection. Shocking proofs like this.
And reason number 5 was that the missing body of Jesus Christ was never found. If Jesus never rose from the dead, then that means that his body would have still been in the grave, which means that all the Romans needed to do was simply reproduce the body of Jesus Christ.
So the made-up stories, commonly called the Gospels, prove that Jesus was entombed and resurrected. And so we're just going to...
So my issue here is that he's not really refuting. He's just
saying that this is.
He's like,
this is. I think he's gonna get on that Gospels proof, the Bible proves the Bible or something. The only issue is that most people would say that at least Matthew, Luke, and John have different traditions than Mark does on the resurrection. Obviously, because even though I'm questioning this, Mark does not.
I'm gonna be honest
Mark,
here.
So Mark, hold on. So Mark ends in 16:8 is what most people think. However, there are ways, and I do think that one can show that 9 through 20 was a separate tradition that was going around that someone put in there later. Because if someone was just trying to like fix up Mark or like make it fit with the others, they would have made it fit with his narrative as well, not just like throwing in something random like they did. But that's for another video. I'm probably going to do my doctoral dissertation on that whenever I get around to that.
Yeah.
Anyways,
my issue
like 20 years in the future
lies in 2 issues already. One, he's not really refuting. He's just like, oh yeah, Gospels are made up. Ha, I win. Like,
yeah, that's. He's gonna probably like, because I know Godless Engineer is a big Richard Carrier fan, and so he's probably gonna classify the Gospels as myth when they're clearly not.
Yeah, and then also, he's going after Alan Parr, who is not an actual apologist. He's made a few videos like this one, but most of the time he more addresses issues within the church or prophecy and stuff like that.
Which isn't like a bad thing.
No, it's not bad, but
that's
it's
not what
not
I'm trying
like
to say. It's not a bad thing.
He's kind of
he's
going
not like
after
capturing Christianity.
Yeah, he's not. He's kind of going after some lower hanging fruit, like Caruso said. It's kind of
he's not going really after NT Wright's YouTube channel.
Yeah, he's not. He's not going after NT Wright's lectures. Chris left for some weird reason. I'm not sure why.
Nor the timeline of when and how the Gospels were written, meaning that the Gospels are not eyewitness accounts and were written way too late to convey.
Oh, here we go. Let's stop that here.
About Jesus. I mean, they never even cite a historical source. All of their sources.
Because they are the historical. Oh my.
So first off, I'm going to say that let's say that they aren't eyewitnesses, and I think they definitely are. I mean, even Mark and Luke are agreed that they weren't, but they do rely a lot on eyewitness testimony. He says
Luke talks about in like Luke
the dating of when the Gospels were written. So this is really an issue. The only one that he could say definitely wasn't an eyewitness, if he's going to go just by common age during that time, he could possibly throw out John. Possibly. And I don't think you could do that. But the rest of them, the synoptics, you don't have an issue with that. Right? And two, the resurrection is recorded in Paul, which is where the earliest resurrection creed was from. So it doesn't matter. Like, the Gospels just kind of lend additional support, but you can make an argument just off of the creed in the First Corinthians.
Right. So I think GE is obviously different than Apologia, but Apologia's argument is that we can only know of two people who actually saw Jesus, which was Peter and Paul, right? And so he doesn't think John was an eyewitness. He doesn't think Matthew was an eyewitness. So you take out those two, and then he doesn't
make that.
No. But what I'm saying is he's probably somewhat taking part of Apologia's argument and saying that we just have two people who saw Jesus, and they, Paul only gave it in a little creed, kind of that kind of thing. But I think we need to watch more of the video. We're only a minute in.
Sources are scripture. If you want to know why these 5 shocking and undeniable proofs failed to prove that Jesus resurrected from the dead, please stay tuned.
Today we want to ask the question, how can we know for sure that Jesus Christ really did rise from the dead? I mean, is this just some myth or some clever fable that a group of people made up that has trickled down throughout history that we have just been told to believe, or is there some evidence or some proof that this is really indeed the truth?
Oh, it would be great if there was any evidence that the Gospels or any of Paul's statements were true, but there isn't any.
Well, Gabe's device disconnected, so I just kind of want to, I guess I'm by myself for now, but it seems to me that, actually I want to continue in the video because I think it's a bit too early to really say he's just stating stuff.
Any evidence. You see, the Gospels attempt to place Jesus in history. Typically, this is known as euhemerization. The Gospels are not historical documents that tell us about the life of Jesus. They were written.
Sorry, it's glitching, so let's see. Try to go back a little bit.
Gospels are not historical documents that tell us about the life of Jesus. They were written 40 or more years after Jesus supposedly died, and the authors didn't even cite any historical sources. They only cite scripture.
Okay, I take issue with this. I apologize if the video is messed up, but I think the audio should suffice. My issue is that it's basically saying, well, why doesn't Josephus cite Josephus? Like, I mean, if they themselves are eyewitnesses, or if this person, or if in their view, if this person is writing as if he's an eyewitness, then citing historical sources is not needed. So I don't think that's necessarily that's not just, I don't know. It's almost so stupid I don't know what to say to it.
This is simply not how ancient histories are written. Ancient histories about influential people weren't written anonymously, and also they didn't appeal to scriptural evidence over historical evidence.
Okay. There's a bunch of wrong information in about 3 seconds. Yes, a lot of ancient history was written anonymously. Or if it wasn't, they were known by, well, most of it is known by the way they wrote things. So I believe, I forget which church father it was, talked about how we know authors by the unchanging line of evidence of the way they write their stuff, right? So, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, a few of Josephus's works didn't actually have him on it, or it wasn't assigned to him.
Yeah, sorry, I had to
you're
take
back.
a couple of calls. I had a couple of calls, but I'm back.
Yeah. So basically, we've only gotten like a minute in, and I've had to stop it like 3 times now.
Let's just play it for a little bit and yes, they were written anonymously, especially in ancient Near Eastern texts, which ironically gives us evidence of authenticity of Jewish backgrounds of the Gospels. Yeah, I don't think they were originally like anonymous. Like, I do think that they didn't originally have titles on them, but I do think when the messengers like carried them, they would have someone tell them, "Hey, this is from him," or "This is from this guy," or "This is from John," "This is from Peter," "This is from Mark," "This is," and the reason being is what we've seen in the church before is why they rejected like the Gnostic Gospels, right? Because they had these questions. They had this like list that they would go down. Is it written by an apostle? No. Is it correct with theology? No. Is it like too legendary? Yes. And so they had this criterion, and I don't think they would have any different of a criterion when they were reading the Gospels earlier on. I don't think they would have a much different criterion than what they had later.
Yeah, the anonymous Gospels thing, I don't necessarily think helps a ton. Because, like Caruso pointed out, a lot of Near Eastern texts were written anonymously. Works like Plato and stuff like that didn't have any names assigned to them. So it's stupid to be discrediting the Gospels because we don't know we think they were anonymous.
Oh yeah, and that's a disputed topic, so it's not right for one to just go, nope, they're anonymous.
Right.
Because
There are many people who argue they aren't actually anonymous, but
like Craig Blomberg and Richard Bauckham, Mike Laconati, right? And a lot of them would say that, like, and then a lot of people are like going to come on here like, no, that's just Christian scholars, but I do know a handful of like skeptics who say that while we don't agree that they're not, that we do think they're anonymous, that the case that they're not is really good. Like James D.G. Gunn.
Yeah, there are a lot of historians that I think would somewhat disagree with him. But let's continue so that we're not straw manning him already.
Yes.
Paul is the closest thing that you could get to a contemporary witness of this Jesus person, but all he records is just the general Christian message. Namely, that he died and resurrected all for our sins. You guys made Jesus kill himself! Kinda. You see, Paul couldn't have appealed to any kind of historical information because that would have invalidated his knowledge about Jesus. He specifically only relies on scripture and his hallucinations of Jesus when he's communicating his information about Jesus.
The only problem is that there's a lot of commentators this came up in the 2004 debate with Dan Barker and Mike Licona. And a point that Licona made is a lot of people, when they talk about, a lot of commentators, when they talk about a lot of things that he talks about, like in Paul in Galatians 4, and a lot of areas where they think that he's just talking about a revelation, where he's referring to his quote unquote sources, that you need to remember who Paul met in Galatians. You need to remember that he met James, and he met Peter, and he met John. I guess you could call them the big three. So I don't think that it's likely that Paul just ran around and was like, "Hey, I saw Jesus. You should believe me. Hey, I saw Jesus. You should believe me. Hey, I saw Jesus. You should believe me." Because there's an interesting part in Galatians when he talks to the disciples. He says that he asks them if what he's been preaching is this basically the same thing that what they have been preaching, and they say yes, you're good to go, pretty much. And so it's really odd to me that that makes me think that Peter, James, John, at least, and I'm guessing the rest of the 12 were preaching that the same creeds that Paul would have been preaching, which is kind of odd if they didn't have these experiences because they're the 12.
Right, and I pointed this out earlier. This is like asking Josephus to cite Josephus. Like, how are you supposed to cite a historical source for your experience? Like, I don't. And he talks about how Paul doesn't appeal to any historical information. I don't like that. That's just really wrong.
Yeah, it's his letters.
And he's citing most scholars, almost all scholars say he was citing a creed.
No, it's not an almost all. It's all respected scholars. You got like Robert Price and like Richard Carrier, but nobody cares about them.
Well, that's why I said almost all, because I was.
I don't even consider them as scholars. So,
well, all scholars would say he's citing the creed. So, I don't think it's just. Yeah, we can dismiss it because he was randomly making up stuff and quoting scripture. Like, no, I don't think that's how it works. All right, but let's continue.
And so today I want to give you 5 undeniable reasons why you must believe in the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Reason number 1 is because of the precautions of the Romans. Now you must understand that the Romans started hearing rumors that the disciples were going to come and steal the body of Jesus Christ away and say that he rose from the dead.
Well, this is an apologetic that doesn't appear until the mid-80s of the late 1st century. It was made up precisely to respond to the idea.
What?
What he's saying is that it doesn't appear until the mid-80s because that's when Matthew was written.
I agree.
Ooh.
No, it's just this is getting really bad, honestly. Okay, first off, Alan Parr is making terrible arguments. But
he's not an apologetics YouTube channel.
Yes, this is
like you go to him like he's like what happens when Christian sins channel and stuff like that.
Yeah, he's attacking low-hanging fruit, and while we kind of are attacking GE, you could consider him low-hanging fruit. I think it's important because he is somebody. He's a counter apologist, right?
He actually reads stuff on this,
right? And
he doesn't go to a little internet. Well, he's a mythicist, so.
All right, let's continue.
That the disciples could have just easily stolen the body, and this particular apologetic only appears in Matthew. Our earliest account, which by historical sourcing methods would have been the most accurate account if they were recording historical information, is Mark. And Mark doesn't even record guards being at the tomb. Also, even if you were able to prove that Jesus was seen alive after he was supposedly killed, doesn't mean that we must believe in the resurrection, at least as it's told in the theology of Christianity. I also take it that these 5 undeniable reasons for believing in the resurrection, they're not just for Christians, right? They're for people that don't already believe in the theology, right?
And so in order to prevent this from happening, they did 3 things. First of all, they put what's called a guard around the tomb. And a guard was nothing more than a group of 10 to 30 soldiers who were highly trained to protect this tomb and guard it with their lives.
Can I get a citation on this?
Yeah, actually, hold on. Let me pull it up real quick.
Yeah, so why does he need a citation on Roman guards? Like, come on, it's not that big of a deal. Because Romans did do things like that. Like, I mean, it doesn't matter.
So it depends on what he's referring to, because you have your Praetorian guards, who were usually the emperor's or elite officials' personal bodyguard, quote unquote. And then you had, when they talk about guard, they're probably talking about actual tomb guards who weren't these elite soldiers. So I don't have the time right now to pull up the numbers. I don't think it was that many guards, but
yeah, it was probably more like 6 at the like 6 or like under like maybe 10.
Probably less than that, honestly.
I mean, it's a tomb.
I would put 2, 3, 4 maybe at max.
Yeah,
but
it's a tomb. You're not going to send like a whole like century.
Gotta think though. Yeah, you know, they don't need 20 people to guard a dead person.
Unless somebody really wanted to rob that tomb.
Not been able to find it anywhere on the internet. All the commentaries that I've read claim that at max there could have been 4 guards. Also, the Roman legion wasn't structured in a way that would allow for a 10 to 30 guard squad to be dispatched anywhere. The smallest organizational group in the Roman legion was called a contubernium. This is basically a squad of about 8 Roman soldiers. Now, if you were to group, say, 10 contubernia into a much larger group, you would have a centuria. And then the next level above that is the legion. Guard is simply not an organizational unit of the Roman army. The only debate...
Oh my God. Okay, first off, I think we have to look at this. He's looking at this through Western eyes, right? Well, that's how we translated it, probably. That doesn't necessarily mean that's automatically how it was written.
Yeah, it probably translates to guard.
Yeah, and second, they sent a guard to the tomb.
I don't think he's read any commentaries.
They sent a guard to the tomb. How else would you interpret that? They sent...
guards.
They sent... Okay, no, hold on. What he's gonna have to provide another way to get around this, right? How would you? What else does a guard mean? Like, they sent a guard to the tomb. I can't think of any other explanations. Like, I'm not sure.
It seems to exist around these particular passages.
Oh my gosh. This video is so...
is whether or not these were Roman guards, because they could have been Jewish temple guards. I highly doubt that it was Jewish temple guards, but regardless of that, it definitely wasn't 10 to 30 guards.
The second thing they did was they put 8.
So I agree with them there. It could have been Jewish guards. Either way, they were still guards, and they still knew how to kill somebody. I agree that it was not 30 guards. I agree with what he said there, but partially of what he said there. But him just saying, well, we can throw out the guard because, you know, it didn't automatically mention, you know, the Roman name for this is kind of bad.
Stone around the opening of the tomb, and this stone weighed somewhere close to 3,000 or 4,000 pounds. And so this hindered anybody who wanted to come in or get out.
Well, first of all, you're using the Gospels as accurate historical accounts of what happened to Jesus in the first century. We have already covered how they weren't. But you think that a mere stone over the entrance to the tomb would stop a motherfucker that just magically resurrected from the dead? How?
That's the whole... Oh my gosh. That's the whole point. The whole point is that the tomb wasn't there when he rose from the dead. That's... Oh my god. I'm sorry. I'm just so... All right, let's continue.
How fucked up would it be if Jesus did all this magical resurrection from the dead and had all this almighty power, and then he couldn't get out of the tomb and he's stuck in there like a genie in a bottle? Also, they didn't put this there to keep Jesus in. Most likely, they put it there to prevent any tomb raiders from coming in there and jacking anything that could have been lying around. You don't have to wonder, though, at the end of Mark, how are women hoping to roll away the cover stone again? I mean, it's not like a cover stone is something that you just totally forget about before you leave the hut. It's not like Mary would have gotten there and been looking for her keys like, oh, shit, I forgot about it.
I'm laughing at this because I do find it funny. He is funny in his videos, I'll give him that. I'm very interested to see, because I think you could say they posted the guard there while the tomb was still open. Now that is speculation, and I don't want to be super speculative, but that's a possible explanation. Another explanation is that they would move it. I don't. Again, that's also speculation. He does bring up an interesting point there, but I'm not 100% sure how bad it hurts the Gospels account. Let's continue.
About the goddamn 2-ton cover stone. Fucking how are we gonna get out of this, ladies? Guess we'll have to turn our asses right back around, go and get the keys. This was obviously an aspect of the story to emphasize the supernaturalness of Jesus.
And then the third thing they did is actually put a Roman seal around this stone, such that if anyone tampered with or broke this seal, they were punished by death. So to suggest, as some would, that the disciples broke in and stole the body of Jesus Christ and claimed that he rose from the dead would be highly unlikely.
Again, this is an apologetic that was invented with Matthew's gospel to respond to the very idea that the disciples could have just stolen the body, regardless.
I'm confused.
How does he know this was just invented?
Yeah. Okay. So what? Okay. I think he's going off of. He's dating Matthew to like the 80s, and then he's saying,
which
well,
isn't
Matthew
entirely late.
Yeah.
It's not too late. I mean, some people do date it there.
I would. I don't want to get into dating right now, but no. He basically is saying, well, Matthew put that in there because there were myths about the disciples stealing it, which is possible, but it's also possible.
There's no evidence that people were saying that.
Well,
I mean, the earliest evidence that we have coming about people thinking about that is Celsus in the 2nd century.
Right.
Talking about that.
I would say if they want to go off a lack of evidence, they themselves would disprove their own point. But no, I would say that's possible. I'm not going to deny that it's possible. But I think it's more possible that the Romans did say something like that. That they did, once the body was discovered, lost, and we're going, theoretically, we're not going to get into semantics, but, let's grant that, they did go to the tomb was empty. To cover their butts, the Romans very probably said something like the disciples stole it. I don't think that's improbable. That's not.
Well, to give a response to that, what G would probably say is that the only gospel with guards in it is Matthew, I think.
And he is correct about that, but
that's just an argument from silence then.
True.
Which, I mean, isn't necessarily a bad thing, but, I mean, you can make those. Yes, he did. And so did Triflo.
All right,
Of the precautions that the Romans could have taken. The stolen body hypothesis, however unlikely that it is still way more plausible than Jesus magically resurrecting from the dead.
Hold up. This is stupid. This is just really stupid because, one, it's not more likely. It's really, really not. I mean, it's not possible.
Well, it is more likely. Intrinsically, it is more likely.
Yes. Okay, but in the end, it would not be more likely. If we exclude Paul's belief, if we exclude the disciples' belief, if we exclude all of those, and then you have to like string together two theories instead of one. You got to string together all these factors to explain one event. So Occam's razor is going to do some damage there. Because you'd have to string like, okay, who steals the body? You have to theorize who stole that. Okay, then you have to make up an explanation for why the disciples believed in it, which naturalistically is very hard to do. And two, I think you can raise the intrinsic probability of the resurrection if you have a good case for the existence of God and a good incarnation argument, because that would increase the probability of something like that happening.
Yeah, I would point out a different issue. He is grouping the burial of Jesus with the resurrection part. I think we need to kind of separate those.
Yeah, right? Obviously.
So, we can't just automatically throw the burial in and say, all right, well, they stole the body during the burial, and then, I think we need to separate the two. So that would be my issue, is that it's not, if we look at the burial practices, we look at the burial hypothesis, it's more probable Jesus was buried and the body wasn't stolen than he was buried and it was. Taking out
even if you take out the guards, take out all that, it's still less likely that the body was stolen, because even though he claimed to be the Messiah, right, he died. And where did he die at? He died in Jerusalem. So, and it's mostly made of Jews, so who's going to steal his body unless it's the people who cared about him? Which, from history, we know a lot of them faced immense suffering for their faith in something that they really wouldn't have believed in because they stole it.
Well, we're getting really deep into other issues.
Yeah, well, it's kind of chasing a rabbit hole, but.
Oh yeah, I made the logo. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's chasing a relevant rabbit hole, though.
Yeah. All right, let's continue.
Because here is a group of fishermen and tax collectors, and the Bible says shortly before Jesus was crucified that all of them were terrified and afraid and forsook Jesus and ran for their lives. And to think that this fearful group somehow got enough courage to break through a group of highly trained.
Actually, I think this is a decent point. I'm going to be honest. This is a decent point.
Yeah.
That why, if these, according to Jewish tradition, a dead person, especially a failed Messiah, was considered cursed, and other things. And then you add in that these people were terrified, they ran away. If we're taking the Gospels or as historical accounts, Peter denies him. Like this, just if we're taking the Gospel's information as correct, we can't. He does raise a good point.
Trained soldiers and steal the body of Jesus Christ is highly unlikely.
So obviously, the disciples are representatives of the 12 tribes of Israel. Whatever cowardice, competence you could interpret from their actions in the Gospels are there for a literary purpose. It's a commentary on.
Okay, hold on.
What? Yep, they're the 12 tribes of Israel.
Those are
dude. What the?
This is actually, I believe, Carrier talks about this.
Yeah, he does.
he does talk about.
He talks about it in this debate with Craig, and he thinks that Mary, like, there's parts in the Gospels where Mary Magdalene, like at the tomb, she's some representative of a tower or something. Like, it's really stupid.
And he says that this stuff is literary devices.
But that's not a biographical device at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, like, omission is not like that stuff, like changing around spaces in the story, like taking details out. But you have to somehow classify the Gospels as myth, which they're clearly not. I don't think that the disciples.
Yeah, he's throwing out weird conspiracy theories that.
I don't think it follows that. I need an analysis of like the 12 tribes of Israel, because it doesn't make sense for like somebody like Judas to be representative of a tribe of Israel.
I mean, you could throw it back to like the Old Testament and talk about how one of the tribes was rebellious or something. I don't know. They could probably find a way to tie it together. But I just think he's chasing a rabbit hole and he's throwing out conspiracy theories. It's just really bad.
Yeah, like nobody agrees with him at all. He said he read commentaries.
I don't think any commentators would agree with that.
Yeah, the only commentator that agrees with that is Carrier.
And possibly somebody like Fitzgerald, but that's about it.
Or Robert Price.
Yeah.
On the state of the Jewish people. But also, you seem to be mixing up your gospel stories here. You quote Mark when you've always been using Matthew. I guess you're trying to...
What? So we can't quote Mark now? Oh my gosh. All right. Just...
show how all the Gospels have bits of this story in it. But all the Gospels pretty much just copy from Mark, so it's no wonder that they have similar...
Wait, hold on. Stop right now. So, he's getting into the synoptic problem.
When in doubt, just say it didn't exist. Exactly.
But, so, obviously I do think that Matthew may have known of Mark's source, and I do think he possibly used it. Even though I think Matthew was a disciple, he's not a close disciple, as think about it, Peter would have been,
or John.
John, right? So, he says all of the Gospels. John doesn't use any of Mark.
John is its own
sword. John's its own thing, and two, Mark, as I said, doesn't. If you think that Mark used this source, Matthew and Luke used Mark as a source on this particular area, then you're an idiot. I mean, I'm just saying that plain, because Mark ends at 16:8, and look at the narratives in Matthew and look at the narrative in Mark.
Right, so he's going to say that they added on.
Well, but they didn't copy. They clearly didn't copy. One says, I mean, they're just, one's like much longer than the other one because it's got more detail in it. So it's obviously didn't copy.
All right, let's continue.
I mean, I hate to be rude.
No, this is just, he's throwing out a bunch of Carrier stuff and then citing it as if it's some like historically attested fact. Yeah.
The moot point. Also, you're implying that they were cowards. This is pushing a motive on them that is simply not found in the Gospels.
I can think of several places in all Gospels where the apostles are looked at as weak and cowardly, but never mind that.
I mean, in both Mark and Matthew, you have one disciple that pulls out a sword and chops a dude's ear off. How exactly is this cowardice? Kind of seems like that motherfucker was ready to kebab the guards. But still, even if you assume that these disciples pissed themselves and immediately ran away from the scene, them stealing the body is more plausible than Jesus resurrecting from the dead.
That goes back to the same issue we already covered. It's just not...
I'll give it. It may have more intrinsic probability, but the final probability is way lower.
The second reason
Yes.
is because of the faith of the disciples. We have to consider once again that right before Jesus was crucified, this group of disciples were cowards. But as soon as he rose from the dead, they all of a sudden turned into fearless preachers who were ready and willing to be beaten, burned, beheaded, sawed into two, stoned, crucified, and even being willing to risk their very lives.
So okay, again, this is a fairly bad argument, just because.
Well, no. So I think that you can turn it around though to show it like as they had some type of experience.
Right.
I mean, I don't think you can go to full resurrection, but you can definitely make it to where they had something happen, something interesting happen.
Right. I think my issue would lie in the evidence we have that all 12 apostles died. Right.
I think we have a decent evidence for like 6.
Yeah, I would say 5 or 6, and that's about all I would put. So I wouldn't say all the disciples.
Just because they believed it, that means it really happened?
You didn't say that.
Strong faith
Oh my gosh.
in the flat Earth, but that doesn't make the Earth flat. Also, we don't have
false
Bible
dichotomy.
to what happened to the disciples after Jesus went home. Acts, which is where he's getting most of this information, is historical fiction. As far as we know, the disciples were.
I love
the
how
sermons and Acts are like some of the earliest creeds we have.
Okay, basically what he's doing is he's just throwing out his opinion and then saying it's a refutation.
Yeah, no, Acts is not generally considered to be fiction. Even Ehrman thinks that a lot of the sermons are really early.
Well, and
he thinks that I can't remember the quote, but he says it is a decent source for the early Christian movement. And Lydia and Tim McGrew have both made decent cases for why Acts is not fiction, but it's historically reliable. And I think, of course, I think they're right. And then Craig Keener has his massive volume on Acts. There's 4 volumes that obviously Godless Engineer has avoided mentioning, and he's avoided mentioning all the other cases as well. He either doesn't know about them or he's intentionally avoiding them.
all right, goes.
Made up by the Gospels. Nobody mentions disciples at all before the Gospels are written. So why exactly is the faith of fictional characters supposed to be convincing?
He just threw out the disciple mythicism. He said, "Fake."
Did he say nobody mentioned?
Paul, Peter, both Jameses, Thomas are really high probability of martyrdom. Bartholomew, Philip, and Andrew possibly. The others not so sure. Actually, I have a graph. I have a actual table for this. I'm gonna see if I can pull it up. Gabe, you want to talk for a little bit?
Yeah, hold on. So the idea that no one mentions the disciples before the Gospels is blatantly false. Because Paul mentions them, and he even says that he spoke to some of them. He speaks to them. And who do you think the 12 are? Like, I know you're going to be like, oh no, prove it's the disciples. It could be some random other 12 guys, but I mean, who do you think the 12 are? Think there's some random group of people? They're like sitting there like, yeah, we're the 12, but we're definitely not Peter, James, John, Matthew, Bartholomew. I mean, that's just really, really stupid to say that nobody mentions the disciples before the Gospels. And Josephus even mentions a couple of them. He mentions his followers, and he mentions James being beheaded, and that's something that Godless Engineer is obviously going to dispute, because that's one thing that Richard Carrier does in his magnum opus, is try to dispute whether the James reference is actually a reference to Jesus or Jesus ben Damnius, but that's another topic.
Okay, I actually have a graph. Let's see. So this is from Sean McDowell's book. He puts Peter at the highest possible probability and Paul in the James in James, the brother of Jesus, all three are the highest possible probability. Then very probably true, James, son of Zebedee. More probable than not, Thomas. More plausible than not, Andrew. And then as plausible as not, the rest of the 12. So we have about 6 apostles. Well, 6 followers of Jesus and about 4 disciples.
The question we have to ask is, why would this group of people be willing to risk their very lives for something they knew deep in their hearts was nothing more than a lie?
Because it was written into the story? I mean, when you're making up shit, you can do anything, really.
The third reason is because of Jesus' post-resurrection appearances. Perhaps one of the most convincing proofs is the fact that the Bible says that after his suffering, he gave many convincing proof that he was alive, and he appeared to them over a period of 40 days.
Well, that depends on which account in the Bible.
But what? I think I've covered all that I needed to today, but I have to go right now. But I think you can obviously handle this for the rest of it. I mean, it's not like you're Graham Oppie.
No, I wouldn't do that without Chris.
Yeah. All right.
You read in Luke and Mark, Jesus was only around for less than a day after his resurrection. In John, it was less than 8 days. And Acts actually has 2 different time periods. One is just an ambiguous reference to a long period of time, while another specifically says 40 days. Also, Mark doesn't even have post-resurrection appearances.
So, I wonder what... This is a hard topic for me to address right now, just because I haven't read a ton about this. I'm unsure about the Acts having 2 time periods. I'm not sure about that. Mark, he's right. Mark doesn't mention any appearances unless you consider the part that they think was added on later. But I'm not really sure where he's getting the 8 days and the 3 days from. I'll have to look. But I'm not going to dispute this just because I don't want to say anything wrong.
So you're not even relaying accurate information as to what your own theology tells us about Jesus' resurrection.
The Apostle Paul goes on to say that at one time Jesus appeared to over 500 people at one time, so much so that when he was writing this letter, he essentially told his readers, hey, if you don't believe me, you don't have to take my word for it. Go and speak to the people who saw them for themselves, because most of them are still alive today.
How exactly were they supposed to find these people? Paul didn't tell his readers where they were or who they were.
He's writing to the church at Corinth, and they probably knew where he was. They knew where Jesus had died. They knew all this stuff. It would be like someone writing to my church from California and talking about an event that happened in San Diego, right? I'm going to know where San Diego is. I may not know the exact people who saw it. I may not know, how many, he tells me if some have fallen asleep, some are still alive. That's up to me to kind of find out, but they knew where to find these people.
It's an ambiguous anecdotal claim that 500 unknown persons saw Jesus resurrect from the dead. Again, I ask, how was anybody supposed to find one of these witnesses? And if you were unable to find one of these witnesses, does that mean that it didn't happen?
So to say that Jesus really didn't rise...
I don't think to say it didn't happen. I think they would take Paul's word for it. I think Paul's putting that in there as he's trying to relay the information he heard, and that was part of the creed. But I don't. This is he's kind of throwing out stuff that I'm I'm just going to
rise from the
continue.
dead, which suggests that all of these hundreds of people were either crazy or hallucinating, which is highly unlikely.
However unlikely that particular...
He's going to bring up the same supernatural intrinsic probability thing.
Particular position is, it's still vastly more plausible than Jesus magically resurrected.
So this is why I always put arguing for the existence of God before I go to the resurrection, just because he is correct, but we have to look at it, it's virtually impossible for 500 people to have the exact same hallucination, although I'm not going to say they all had the exact same, because there's no details on that. But if we're saying that's where we want to go, then it's virtually impossible that happens. It's virtually impossible a guy raises from the dead without a God. So I wouldn't put them. I would put them equal if we're going, if we're denying miracles.
Acting from the dead. Hallucinations are a thing that happens, and most importantly, it's a...
So there are things such as shared psychosis, which happens in 2 very rare occasions, 3 people. And this is after they've lived with a mentally ill person for years, and they start seeing or hearing things. So they do happen, but it's not like this just randomly happens, and they're usually almost never the same. And the stuff we have, they're different accounts. Like, I don't think it's really, it doesn't help your point.
It's a natural occurrence. Anything supernatural will always be superseded by a natural explanation. This is also basically an ad populum argument. All these people believe that they saw Jesus resurrect, so therefore Jesus did in fact resurrect. That's not good evidence, dipshit.
Reason number 4 is that secular history confirms it. Now, it would be one thing if the Bible was the only book that recorded the miracle of the resurrection, but other secular history books record the same thing. First of all, it's recorded by a man named Josephus, who was a Jewish, non-Christian historian. Second of all...
Okay. No. I'm sorry, but I also am going to have to critique this guy. No, he doesn't ever mention... He mentions it in a vague, they followed this guy who is said to have been the Messiah. He never just says Jesus resurrected or gives any, information on it. So, no.
Second of all, it was recorded by a man named Thomas Arnold, who wrote The History of Rome. What makes these testimonies even stronger is that they were written by non-Christians who were simply seeking to be credible and trustworthy historians, which means they had to report the truth, whether they liked it or not.
Well, first of all, the Josephus text is most definitely a forged entry. There are scholarly journal articles.
Okay, so I didn't have time to look at. So he probably cited the testimonium, which people like Godless Engineer and Richard Carrier argue for whole interpolation. So the whole entire thing is forged. I would agree part of it's forged. I think we can argue for partial authenticity. So that's just a difference on our part. But I agree with him on that. Josephus never mentions Jesus' resurrection. I know in other writings he kind of mentions it vaguely as he was the claimed Messiah. But yeah, I agree with him here. It's a terrible argument.
That exist all over the place that rip this particular passage in Josephus apart. If you want to understand how the Testimonium Flavianum is a forged entry in Josephus, you might want to check out my Crestus app. I'm preparing a really big update, so definitely go and get it. But back to your point, I don't even know why you're including Thomas Arnold in this. He's a 19th century historian that definitely was a Christian. I'm not exactly sure why you thought he was a non-Christian. Regardless of that, A 19th century historian is not going to have access to better evidence than Paul did. Finally, it doesn't mean that they have to report the truth whether they like it or not. They could report the alternative truth and just say...
Again, he could apply this to anything, you know? He could apply this to Josephus on his recordings of the wars. He could apply this to Caesar's recordings of the wars. Like, you just apply this to everything. They don't necessarily have to, you know, record the truth. They could record an alternative truth. Well, sure, but that could happen on every other document ever, so...
that it is the truth. This is kind of a pointless claim to make.
More recently, people like Frank Morrison, Lee Strobel, and Josh McDowell, all professed atheists, sought out to disprove the...
Again, terrible. These are guys that are living, you know, now. Really bad.
reality of the resurrection, thus proving that Christianity was nothing more than a false religion based on a myth. But as they dug into it, researched it more and more, they found that it was the undeniable truth, and eventually all of them converted over to Christianity.
So just because some dipshits out there were converted to Christianity, that means that we should believe in Christianity, or we should be convinced by these same dumb arguments? What the fuck is this anecdotal ad populum argument? Nobody should be convinced by this.
And reason number 5 was that the missing body of Jesus Christ was never found.
It's a 2,000-year-old body. It's decayed. It's gone. Well, you know, if it didn't raise from the dead. It's decayed. It's gone. It's just nowhere to be found. So this is just really bad.
If Jesus never rose from the dead, then that means that his body would have still been in the grave, which means that all the Romans needed to do was simply reproduce the body of Jesus Christ, and then they would have settled the lie that Jesus rose from the dead, thus destroying Christianity forever.
I agree on parts of that statement and disagree on parts. I agree that it seems unlikely that if the body was still in there, we have no Jewish or Roman historian saying, whoa, hold up, not true. We have the body. So I agree with partially that part, although it's an argument from silence, basically, which I don't want to make. I disagree with the part that this would have stopped the growth of Christianity. It would have definitely halted it, and to a certain point, and probably wouldn't have grown as big, but it wouldn't have just completely stopped it.
This just assumes that Jesus was crucified to begin with. There is...
Okay. But it's just, this is a back and forth of just stupid stuff.
There's no evidence that Jesus was crucified other than the anecdotal evidence of Paul. Let me be clear, that would...
What? Oh my... No. You know, because... never mind, I'm not even going to try that.
Be a strong indication that he was in fact crucified. If he had sourced his stuff with historical things and not scripture.
How is he supposed to sort? He's getting this information from probably Peter, who is an eyewitness, possibly James, the brother of Jesus. So they were his historical sources, but they hadn't written anything yet. And how is he supposed to source an eyewitness testimony? You know, someone witnesses a murder, and you're like, hold on, can you give me some citations for that? No, that's not how it works.
So the Romans never producing a body is not really a surprise.
But the very fact that they could not reproduce the body is proof in and of itself that this miraculous event did occur in history.
I will admit that is one giant leap in logic. Huge leap in logic.
No, it doesn't. A plot point in a fictional story about some guy that supposedly lived inherently cannot prove that that plot point happened in history.
So guys, I hope this video not only gives you more confidence about what you believe as a Christian, but also gives you more ammunition to silence those who are skeptical about the Christian faith.
Wait a second. I thought that this video was geared towards people that didn't already believe in Christianity. Now you're telling me that the entire thing was to reassure Christians in their faith about the resurrection of Jesus? What the fuck? If you don't remember, in the beginning you said...
So today I want to give you 5 undeniable reasons why you must believe in the resurrection of Jesus Christ.
So these undeniable reasons for the resurrection are really only undeniable if you already believe in the theology of Christianity. Also, why are you adding the...
So I'm just going to stop this here and say this was just terrible video. It was just one bad argument responded with another bad argument, responded by another one. It was terrible. So it's been an hour and 15 minutes. So I'm going to hop off here, but thank you everyone for